So when we're studying for our NCLEX, you want to think about how you study. Okay, studying effectively is very important in order to retain information and also to just kind of like clearly organize your studying needs and your thoughts. So we have content maps that we share. And when you're studying, you want to use a content map. It's based on the American Nurses Association ADPI nursing process. And so we've set it up to where it's easy for you to study based on your disease process. So you have your assessment. Assessment is where you collect the data. And then your diagnosis, just as a reminder, the diagnosis is how you is finding out what's the problem with the patient. The nurse considers the physical symptoms, the patient's behavior, and then what forms of diagnosis or analysis cues. And then also for the planning, the nurse is going to use their expertise to set realistic goals for the patient's recovery. What does that look like? And then we're going to assess it closely. And then we're going to implement our plan. We're going to take action to document the nurse's progress. Okay. And then for the evaluation phase, the nurse analyzes the effectiveness of the plan of care. And so, and we're looking at what the patient's response is. And then if the response is helpful or positive, then great. If not, then we're going to go ahead and through the nursing process and reassess or reevaluate again. Okay. So we use this. You could download this from our website, and you can use this to help with your studying, planning, and process. Okay. So it's best to use as your content map based on diseases. Excuse me. So when as part of the clinical judgment model that you've been learning, and if you were in nursing school recently, that you've been learning to use, and this is the clinical judgment model is what they're going to be focusing on the next gen NCLEX. The goal with the clinical judgment model is this can be used by both the novice and the experienced nurse. So it allows for like complex thinking that's required to actually care for the patient. Okay. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this model or the current test plan, but just know that when you think about it, you think about your SATA questions. When you think about the select that all that apply questions, use your clinical judgment thinking with that, or your critical judgment thinking with answering those questions, because don't think of the SATA or the select all apply questions as a list, but more of a concept of how you treat that condition and how you think about the process of treating that condition. So I'm just going to run through this just quickly. And when we're looking at noticing, so when the first thing that we're doing is we're noticing. So what clinical data does the nurse recognize that's important or significant for the patient? Okay, so that's what we do when we're noticing what's going on. And then when you're interpreting, so what's the meaning of the clinical significance of the relevant data, of the data? Is it relevant, or is it just, noise? Do I need to even pay attention to it? So that's where we kind of go through and sift out data that's pertinent to kind of what's going on with the patient. So the next step is responding. How will the nurse respond with the nursing priority? And then you plan the care based on the clinical data that you noticed and interpreted. Okay. So that's how we're going to respond. That's where we take action for going forward. But it's based on the significant information that you received for that patient. And then we reflect. So reflecting, we want to, after responding, what's the evaluation on that? And then reflecting that was noticed by the nurse. So that's just a quick overview of the Tanner clinical